This is the 20th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing with a gentleman who loves bass fishing more than just about anybody that I've met in all my journeys, travels, and 15 years of covering this game. He's been doing it a lot longer than 15 years, but we did a little bit of an old school throwback show last week with Jim Moyna from his basement. And I'm happy to announce that I'm adding Jim Moyna to the regular rotation of BTL as long as he's doing it from that wicker chair in the basement. I thought that was like one of the coolest backdrops that we've ever had, and his knowledge and stories from 26 years on the FLW tour and then the pro circuit, now fishing the opens and dating back to the top 150s and invitationals. Just a wealth of knowledge, and I really enjoyed it. And it reminded me that there's another gentleman with a wealth of knowledge and information, who always also has a cool backdrop. He's either at his day job or at his second home in Florida, tinkering with baits, who has been around for a long time and a wealth of information, and that is the one and only Charlie Hartley.
Wait a minute, I need to change into a Bass Talk Live.
Your Bass Talk Live apparel.
Yeah.
Charlie goes from the collared. Now that looks like a dry clean shirt, Charlie. Don't get that thing wrinkled. There you go, the Mercury Pro Team shirt and the Mercury hat, and he's back at it. Now, that would mean you're back in Ohio for the summer, Charlie.
Yep, came here after our Logan Martin EQ, which was a really cool tournament. Of course, oh, wait a minute, cicadas. Watch out,
oh,
cicadas.
Gosh. Oh, I took so much crap for that cicada deal on that show. It was unbelievable. I thought it was a viable option, and the guys did. So now, and obviously, that tournament, Patrick Walters won by £1 million, and he was doing the blueback herring thing. But the cicadas did play. I felt like that was we're talking about the Open Pros Pick'em, where I thought the cicadas on Lake Murray would be a viable pattern. But I mean, heck, that's just a little bit of research and info. I took a lot of crap for that. I was kind of proud of it.
I thought it was funny that they always pick on you, Matt. That means they love you. And I'm surprised.
Is that what that means, Charlie?
That's what that means. It's what my mom always told me. You're special. They think you're special. I'm surprised you didn't see more cicadas or hear them at Logan Martin. At my end of the lake, they were thick and even ended up with some in the boat. So I was surprised you didn't see them at Logan Martin. Yeah,
they apparently don't like the middle of the lake, and neither did the bass in that section. But hey,
we had a huge mayfly hatch at St. Clair this weekend. Some people put on Instagram. You could see them up in the sky. They looked like smoke or clouds. You could actually see waves of them in the sky. People were taking videos of them. Now,
the smallmouth do love the mayfly hatch. I've been on Oneida when the mayfly hatch before, and if you don't know what you're looking for, the smallmouth on a mayfly hatch are baffling, because you could have 3, 4, 5 pounders slurping those things down all around you, and it looks like a 2-inch perch. And you cast over there, and all of a sudden you're like, where did this 5-pounder materialize from? They slurp it like a trout, don't they?
Yep. And it's not just the mayflies. Everything else is feeding on the mayflies, and the smallmouth, just like they do, they sit below and wait for the other fish to come up and take advantage of them, the perch and so on and so forth. And a lot of times we actually fish the carcass mats. There's dead carcass mats. And they make like an eddy. When there's current, you can see an eddy or a line on the mayfly carcasses. And we burn those chartreuse spinner baits through them. And I think they think they're perch feeding up under them. And they bust those, those 45 caliber spinner baits, those number 4 willow leaf chartreuse with a chartreuse skirt, and you reel it as fast as you can. And it's probably one of the most explosive smallmouth bites you've ever had in your life. But I want to congratulate you on a couple of things. First of all, I think you had the first classic interview with the classic champion with Mr. Hamner.
He's on the
And
cover
then
of
I
everything now.
And then I think you just pulled off the first interview with Jordan Lee after a heavy hitters event that was incredible.
Thank you. It was. That was a deal. You know, back in the day, Jeffries is always like, man, you need to develop relationships with these guys. You talk to them. and Jordan's one of those dudes that I've known since he was 17, 18. You know, I remember we had an old website called the College Bass Zone back when college fishing was big, probably 2011, 2012, 2013, somewhere around there. And we did an in the dorms feature. Remember, Jeffries used to do always the in the house, or they would come to people's house and be like, it's in the house presented by Gatorboard. And we'd go and do like a MTV crib style. Well, the first one that I did on the in the dorms was Auburn University. Matt and Jordan Lee, and went to the house that they lived in and did a whole deal. So I've known Jordan and Matt for a long time, but Jordan's a dude who I feel like, and you've known him since he was a young little punk too, Charlie, but do you not feel like over the past several years he has incredibly matured, understood kind of his place in the sport, taken a lot of time, and just a really good interview now, and super genuine dude who is incredibly talented. And quite frankly, that dude holds the mantle now, especially with KVD retiring in that last one and the back-to-back classics and back on the Elite Series. Like, I mean, I think it's Jordan's world for the foreseeable future, Charlie.
Yeah, I agree. I met him. I don't think he's only matured with time. When I met him when he was young, I was amazed how mature he was and professional and even keeled. You know, he does not get all fired up or excited like I do. But I remember he did that day with Zona where they did live filming on St. Clair, and Zona had him dress up in a crown and a cape.
He hooked that sturgeon for 4 hours.
Yeah. And I remember the next tournament I saw him and he was over there and I'm like, the king is here. The king is here. And he looked at me and he goes, oh, Charlie, cut that out. Cut that out, Charlie. He was always so humble.
He is. And have you spent any time in the boat with him?
I have not been in the boat with him, but I fished near him. And I'll tell you what, you know, he makes it look like he's just a dumb old redneck that, oh, I'm going to go throw a wacky rig. I'll tell you what, that kid's a genius. We've seen him win with a lot of different tactics, a lot of different patterns. And usually it's always something he's figured out that the crowd did not figure out, it seems like. He is a very instinctual fisherman. You know, when I see Jacob Wheeler, he seems like a robot or a scientist. All the wheels are turning, but Jay Lee just seems like I'm going fishing, and when the fish tell me how they're going to bite, I'm going to kick all your asses, and he does it. Yeah.
And we saw that, if you remember that first tournament that he made through the Bassmaster College Series, and it was on Gunnersville, and he had, I think, 4 for 14 or something on the first day. And it was cold, and he went shallow and started punching those ultra shallow mats. And had he made that adjustment an hour earlier, he would have won that Bassmaster Classic by a fair margin. And that was the first kind of natural instinct time on the water adjustment that I think we saw him make, where everybody else was struggling and he went up shallow. Remember, he busted like a couple 7s or 8s on that day. And but you know, I've spent quite a bit of time in the boat with them. And I'll say this, Charlie, like he's not like, oh my God, watch this guy cast. It's not like, look at the secret baits this guy has in the boat. Like, it's not, oh, his focus and attention it's just his cool, calm confidence and decision-making that is next level. And I don't care what you put on boats, what technology, how much info you get, whatever. When you have that much confidence and you make that many good decisions, and you're that instinctual about it, man, that's what makes you one of the best anglers in the world.
Yeah, even worse, you add confidence to that formula, and he is confident right now. I remember when I was on a roll or two, there he is. When I was on a roll, you show up to the tournament and you think you know more than anyone else in the tournament when you're that confident, and that's hard to beat. Yeah, that was funny. Remember they hurt sturgeon that day he fought it for like 2 hours.
Yeah, I think it's, here it is right here. This is where, remember all the boats came out? They invited everybody out onto
This is
St.
awesome.
Clair. This is
how we pray. We pray St. Clair's this calm when we go there.
It was 4 years ago. I totally forgot while he was fighting that. Oh, and Zona had the money chain on, and they're fighting this sturgeon. I mean, it literally, look at all the boats in the background. This might be some of the best footage. Look, the double net. I totally forgot about all this. This stuff was legendary.
And this is when he was young. Look how young he is.
Remember Zona totally foobarred the net.
He blew it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, when Zona looks back on his Hall of Fame career, I think this might be his biggest regret. Look, right there's that. Let's see if I can get to the part of where he loses it.
That was hilarious. I didn't get much done in the office that day. I kept watching that.
Oh my gosh, here it is. Why does it keep going past that part? Because they lose it there. That's unbelievable. I'm glad you brought that up, Charlie.
Yeah. Well, you asked. I came home to Columbus after Logan Martin. I've been home about 3 weeks now, and I've gotten up to Lake Erie a few times and to St. Clair a few times, fished a bunch of local tournaments. And I get to be a boat captain this weekend for a 2-day championship on a local reservoir. That'll be, it'll be a long day. There it is. No.
And then he grabbed it, and then it was gone. I remember I was in the studio in Moore, and everybody I knew, like the fishing world, stopped. Oh, that was legendary.
That was legendary. And
so anyway,
of course,
yep, you're back.
We were on that topic of heavy hitters. We got to talk about KVD in the last hour. I was watching all that, and early in the last day, KVD had the lead, had a chance to win heavy hitters before Jordan Lee's frogfish turned back on. But to see KVD catch the heavy hitter bass in the last hour of the tournament, and he's got it halfway to the boat, and he's looking at the camera going, that's $100,000 fish, boys.
Oh, that was so cool.
As he ever is, that I'm going to land that thing. That was unreal.
Charlie, let me ask you this, and this is strictly opinion based, but you're the most passionate angler that I know who's been doing it and it's genuine. It's not like, you are genuinely excited to be out.
Thank you. Jim Moyne came across the same way, by the way, and he's been doing it a long time.
I agree. He's in a little bit of a funk right now, though. He's been dumping some good ones.
And I loved his question about whether age, he said he was 50.
I don't think that had anything to do with age.
Matt,
that's just bad luck.
Yeah. I'm not telling you. Okay. You'll see. Go ahead, though. You were going to ask.
So let me ask you this. So you understand from the passion standpoint. So I know, and KVD, and he has that same passion for competition, for closing the door, for crushing people's dreams, and for lifted up trophies. In your opinion, is there any way, and we saw how spry he was grabbing that he could stay retired? Or will we see KVD make another competitive cast strictly because the fire and intensity burns so deep inside that when he gets it, he realizes he can't live without it?
I don't know if you know, he was just a guest on Ike's podcast, Ike's 2.0, and Ike brought that up. And of course, Kevin danced around it, but he left it a little open-ended. He said, never say never. And then he also said, I'll be fishing some other events, maybe some charity events or some special events. So I got a feeling he knows about some upcoming specialty events where he'll get his competitive juices fired, and he's going to be competitive as hell on his TV show. He's going to want his TV show to be the #1 ranked TV show over Zona, over Facts of Fishing. Oh, I don't care. He loves those guys, but he's competitive as hell, and he'll want to crush their heads with this TV show, and he probably will. I can't wait to see it. It'll probably be one of the best shows ever produced.
Will he fish another classic, in Charlie Hartley's opinion? This is what shows do. We hypothesize.
Not that he can't. No, okay. Not that he can't. Not that he's not skilled enough, but he will not. He's a man of his word. He has integrity, and he's not the kind of guy that's going to waffle back and forth. On top of it, I heard him say that Sherry said, if you retire, you're really retired. And Sherry's the boss, so I don't know about that.
That's fair. Okay, we mentioned heavy hitters. You that's your pond, that's your fishery during the winter. I was fortunate to stay at your, well, I think it's your wife's house. It's not yours. She runs that roost over there.
I get the garage.
You get the garage. But you're what, 15 minutes from the ramp there at Toho? 10 minutes?
I'm 2 minutes from the Whaley's ramp, which is at the south end of the lake, which is where it all went down.
Yeah. How wild was that? What are your thoughts on that?
Cool.
Did you know that could happen?
Yep. Yeah. The, right before I left, was only 3 weeks ago or so, they started dropping all the water to kill the grass. We went to a big meeting with the FWC late last year, and they explained they didn't have the budget to kill the grass yet, but they had plans to do it next year. And when I left, they had already started on cypress. They dumped cypress about 2 feet. And when I went to launch one morning, they said, "Sir, we're spraying for grass today." And I was like, okay, I know that. Well, I didn't know what they meant. They had 30 boats out there. I mean, I thought they meant I'd see one guy out there spraying for grass, but they were decimating it. And, a lot of that flows down the river, down the chain. And as you saw in on the videos, Toho really played. Cypress played a little bit because they killed the grass, because they lowered the lake, but it was all about Toho, and they're getting ready to nuke Toho too. And I say nuke. They can't control the grass in Florida. They will make a big dent in it, and within 10 years, it'll be just as thick as it is right now. They cannot. It's not like other places that when they kill it, it doesn't come back. Florida is a perfect habitat for that grass, and they can't decimate it. But it'll definitely change the fishery. But it was incredible to watch that. I mean, literally, 2 miles from my garage to see that go down. And the locals have always told me, if you stuck around later, Charlie, around May and June, it really gets going on down here, and they start eating a frog because, we always throw prop baits. I had a co-angler once when I came in second down there, watch me throw my prop bait, and he goes, "Oh, in another month, you'd love how they eat the frog down here. You'd love how they eat the frog." Well, that footage we saw, you said it yourself, that was the best thing that's happened for bass fishing in a long time, and major league fishing. That was a good old bass fishing derby. Those bites, that footage, the drone footage, the amount of force they were putting on those fish and that tackle to get those fish out of that stuff. I mean, only saw 1 or 2 rods break, which was incredible. Didn't see them lose any of those fish when they bury them up in that stuff. There was a time when you frog fished, it was very low percentage. And the way those fish were eating that frog, oh my gosh, it was ridiculous. And some of those hook sets, I mean, Jordan was up to like a 7.9 or a 7.11 broomstick, and he was hitting them. And he's just a little dude, man. He's small as I am, and he was putting the heat on them. That was a great show to watch. I was fishing and watching it at the same time, and I couldn't take my eyes off of it. It was neat to see people fighting over their spots. It was neat to see that Keith Poche come from nowhere and almost win a damn tournament. And tried to use his same tactics, even though he didn't have his boat. I know a lot of people are against that off the grid stuff, but to me, that's what makes bass fishing so cool, that a guy can show up in your derby with a little John boat and kick your ass because he's figured out a different way within the rules. But really good show to watch. Obviously, it was chatterbait, and it was a frog mainly. And KVD was a pleasure to watch. He is efficient. It was so funny. He said, "I'm going to stop to take a picture of this fish. I don't usually stop fishing to take a picture." And I was thinking, Kevin, it's your last damn derby. Take a minute to take a picture, boy.
What was the first frog you ever remember throwing? I know that there's kind of a lineage of them. Mine would have been
before frogs. They were called rats. I owned the man's rat, and it was I've got it. Pull it up. I still got them in the box, dude. And the reason frogs weren't around much is just like plastic worms, we didn't have the technology to make rubber or plastic soft enough or durable enough or bend it in these forms or in colors. But the man's rat was ugly as heck. It just looked like a splattered pancake, hollow belly.
Got it?
Here, we're going to get a picture of it. Yep. It had double hook, and it even came with it came with a 3-way swivel that fit over those hooks, and you could have a trailer hook off the back.
That looks atrocious,
center.
Charlie.
Oh,
that looks
terrible.
awful. It's just like an oval lump of plastic with some.
It's a lump of poop, and I caught lots of fish on it. One of my biggest Great Lakes largemouth came on that in the Detroit River back in a lagoon. Yeah. And of course, before that, there was the snag proof. It only had like one hook up the back. It was like army green colored. But man, the biggest change is the hooks and the braid. We didn't have braid. And without braid, it was a losing battle. I mean, mono on those things with the stretch, you just couldn't get the hooks in them or get them out of there, you know. And plus, we were using 5'6" rods with a pistol grip.
This is what I remember. That's the first frog that I ever. My first fish ever on a topwater on this exact bait that I got from Kmart of all places was at the local pond. And someone must have dumped these things in because they didn't want to clean them. But I had like a 5-pound hybrid come through a mat in a pond and eat that rat. And this pond you can basically cast across. And like no one believed that I caught it out of that pond. Like it had to have been, you know, they went and fish at Lake Decatur, didn't want to clean them, dumped them in that pond. But I remember because I got that, I was like probably 8 or 9. And I was dragging a Texas rig worm across it, and the boo, and there was a guy down there who had this, and he's like, son, he's like, if you want to catch him, you got to get you one of these mouses. Yeah, one of these mouses. We're super nostalgia. And this is one of the reasons why I called you. So that
one of the first tournaments I fished at Champlain way back 20 years ago, that white mouse was the local secret. They'd run down to Ticonderoga. And I mean, they literally were winning with that back in the day. I'm sure some people listening will recall that. LaVictor and all those old Champlain guys,
sounds familiar. That name,
man, they had it on their rods, and I was like, "That's the craziest thing I ever seen."
So this is how old school it is. So I did like a deep clean because the new cat's getting rigged at the bass tank. As soon as the show's over, I'm going to pick it up. I wanted to have a nice clean garage, not Charlie Hartley clean. But it's organized now. So I was on another show. I was talking about it. So I got this. 1 second. Let's see if I can do this without breaking it. Whoa! I did not mean to hit that. You good? You need to get that. You good? So this is the rod and reel that I got at the 1998 Bassmaster Classic that I used to throw that frog with, and I still have it. It's the Abu Garcia, the round reel. It's the Larry Nixon Bass Tournament Series. It's got its own, it's like handwritten on here, the last 3 numbers, so they know exactly which rod and reel you had. And it was one of the first, like, if you catch the fish in the tournament on this rod and reel, you turned it in for an extra couple $100. But I would this is what I threw that frog on. And I don't know how I didn't just quit fishing, because I remember I would just pick backlashes left and right on it. I mean, look, it's got like that. It was like a.
Did the level wind disengage, or does the level wind go back and forth?
It goes back and forth
when you cast.
No, it disengages.
Yeah, I had them where the level wind went back and forth when you cast it, dude.
I remember this was pumped because it was one of my first ones that had the thumb bar on the actual reel.
Yeah, that's fancy. My first bait caster was the Red Ambassador 5000, and I worked all summer on a roof, helped a guy on a roof, and he paid me enough to go buy my first bait casting reel. It was a Red Ambassador 5000. It had the white ivory handles on the crank, and I bought an Eagle Claw bait casting reel. It was a black pistol grip, yellow rod, red wraps. So it was a yellow rod with red wraps and a red reel. I thought it was the prettiest thing I'd ever seen. I put line on it. I went out in the backyard and backlashed the whole spool line over and over and over again. Yeah. Oh no, it's even older than that. That's
older than that.
Yeah, it doesn't. We didn't have round plates. No, we had the cast controls on the side. You didn't have a round palming plate.
Oh my God, I found it. I found it, Charlie.
Yeah, you're gonna laugh, but that was brand new in the box, dude, when I bought it. That's her.
Dude, you can get that right now for $200.
I've got it in the basement. I've got that rod and that reel. I've saved every rod I've ever fished with. There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Wow. Was that like the latest and greatest? The little thing on the side, was that like that was big league?
That I put that on the first Fenwick Lunker stick flipping stick, and together that combo weighed about 4.5 pounds.
There's William Knight. He said, yeah, 5 pound combo, weighted 5 pounds.
No, that's hilarious. That's recent history, but one more generation, that history's gone.
What was the last round reel that you used? Like, there had to be. You don't use any round reels now, do you?
Not anymore, but I mean, we worked our ways up to Daiwa had the Millennium, I believe it was called, or the Millionaire, or Daiwa Millionaire, maybe. That was the next round one. And then Ambassador made a smaller one that was called a 2500 C, which was just a smaller version of that red one. So it fit in your palm a little better. Yeah, there, yeah. Matt, those were high tech at the time, my friend. Those were, but you couldn't cast them worth a poop. I mean, I wondered why I ever bought a bait caster. It took me a long time to learn to cast that with no direction. We didn't have internet. We didn't have someone to show you how. I went out there and just backlashed.
Do you remember? It was a round reel. I want to say it was either an Abu Garcia or a Daiwa, but it had like a little blah, 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 blah on it, and when you cast it, it slowed down the spool speed, and it was like the anti-backlash bait caster, and like they advertised it as like unbacklashable.
Well, they even had some for a while that had like a computer chip in them that was supposed to keep you from backlash. And I think Shimano or something did something like that. But it is amazing now, the reels that we have, even the low price reels now, it's hard to backlash them. If you set things up right, we can cast our reels now without even putting the thumb down at the end of the cast, and they don't backlash. It's amazing with technology. But that was the biggest difference in frog fishing, was the terminal tackle, not just the frog. I mean, you didn't stand a chance back then with mono. You really didn't.
I just did a show where I showed the first braid that I remember, which was the Gorilla braid. What was the first braid that you remember coming to market?
I down at Okeechobee, I fished a Jerry Ryan tournament at Okeechobee, and a guy had a braid, and it was like black and white zebra looking. It was like, it was camoed black and white. Yeah, that was the first stuff I remember ever seeing. And they were fishing super spooks on it down there. And people used to try to help you out when you were as naive as I was. They'd say, here, Charlie, after they shut off in the south end, we went up north and threw a giant spook on this thing. And I was like, wow.
Holy cow, we're already 30 minutes in. I love these old school shows. We're taking
a break?
Yeah, we're gonna take a break. I think Charlie has to make a business call. He's got to get sell a sign. Got to get a sign installed there. And when we come back, more with the one and only Charlie Hartley. It's BTL on a Tuesday, back after a long holiday weekend. May 28th, we'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide body footprint, This hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
It's definitely a lot colder today.
Man, I really need to make this cut.
I need to make up points quick. Positive mental attitude.
I hope they stay where I found them.
Are they even pulling water?
Too far. And I hope nobody else.
Man, it's too windy.
The water's too high.
Avco, keeping you comfortable on the outside, no matter how you're feeling on the inside.
Gamakatsu, the innovation leader in fish hooks, is launching Nano Alpha technology in 2024. Nano Alpha is a new finish available on Gamakatsu's most popular hook styles. It delivers 2 times slicker performance, 4 times better corrosion resistance. Nano Alpha technology makes the world's greatest fish hooks even better in 2024 to help anglers catch more fish.
Born in Japan, using technology, innovation, and precision, Sunline produces the widest selection of fishing lines at the most technologically advanced line factory in the world. Manufactured at the strictest tolerances to produce victories at the highest levels of tournament bass fishing. From household names like Christie, Swindle, and Cruz, to young guns like Cook, Logan, New, and Welcher, they all trust Sunline to take them to the top of the leaderboard. Choose the line that will give you the strength to guarantee your confidence. Sunline.
All right, welcome back, BTL on a Tuesday with the one and only Charlie Hartley. Are you like 6 months and 6 months now? I feel like you
no.
Couple
at least
weeks
around the office, I say I'm only down there 4 months, but then they remind me that it's usually a lot longer than that. Tracy's still down there taking care of her mom.
Yep.
So when I come home without her, all I have really is sign common fishing. So I get to fish a bunch, dude. I don't know if you saw any of the videos I put up on Instagram, but I got on the small and this bed and smallmouth at Lake Erie weekend before last. It was epic. That water's so clear. Everyone I sent those videos to said, "Oh, it's so what a hassle you have to deal with that muddy water," and it was incredible. I caught 36 smallmouth on my first stop without starting the big motor. Hardly lifted the power poles up more than 5 times and caught 36 off beds and made sure I never caught the same fish twice, which at my age, you're not sure if you've caught that one or not. So I use my GPS to make sure I don't cover the same trail because literally you can lift the power poles up and move 10 feet and you see 10 fresh beds and you can't tell if those are 10 fresh beds or just 10 beds. And then you looked out your GPS and you're like, I haven't been over here yet. So those are 10 fresh beds. It was off the hook good. I mean, I could have left right there. It was a foggy morning. I left mainland in the dark, pulled into that spawning pocket that every year they come in there. It's scary how they come in there. It's the prettiest little sand pocket. And it was so foggy and so dark I could hardly see. But even with the fog and the low light, that water's so clear. Those smallmouth can camouflage so well that you can see the bed. The beds are black here when they dig them in the sand, and you can swear there's not a fish there, and then he moves, and you're like, there he is, unbelievable. And you totally underestimate the depth because of the clarity and the refraction of your sight, because when you try to drop that drop shot down on their bed, it goes 10 feet off their bed because how deep it is. Yeah. But the same thing happens with the smallmouth. I got video ones down there. It look like they're 8 or 10 inches long. Well, when you hook them and they come up, they're 4 pounders. You know, it's they grow as they rise.
Did Simonton ever send you the video when he swam underwater and he got that one that he thought was like possibly a 10? Like, okay, I'm saying 10. It was the biggest smallmouth I've ever seen. Remember that? That was a couple years ago. And he's like, I didn't want to mess with it. I never went back and fished that rock. I just let it. He's like, it was like a dinosaur, man. And I just remember like underwater, the thing looked big, just the way it was shaped.
I got to see him. He actually gave me a jump the second day after I slept in the truck and didn't charge the batteries all night.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but he's one of my favorite people in the world. I launched before daylight, and he pulled in waiting on he was guiding, of course, waiting on his clients. And we told stories until his clients showed up. And it was so foggy that morning. Matter of fact, we were kind of scared to leave the ramp. It was, that's how Erie got its name. When it's foggy, it's really eerie looking out there. And, but it was such a pleasure to see him. I ended up catching, I think, 74 that day or something
Good
crazy.
Lord, Charlie.
Yeah, no, off the hook. And the weekend before, I went to an area of Lake Erie I've never been to it before. A good friend turned me on to it, and he said there's a largemouth bite that only lasts about a week every spring, and you need to go to this area of the lake and check it out. And Lord, I had 2 days up there largemouth fishing that were probably some of the best numbers. I mean, just virgin fish. You pull into these marinas and, you catch 4 out of every boat slip. You catch 10 off the boat hoist, and you catch 10 off the ramp in the back. And all the walleye fishermen are popping their heads up out of the cabin cruisers going, "What are you doing in here, boy? What's going on over here?"
Oh, that is phenomenal. Yeah, I went last summer. I hope to get out this summer again. And Michael took my dad and I perch fishing with the spreader rigs. We call like 40, 50 a day. And we did a little bass fishing there. I need to get him on day 5 guide day. I just did one with Jack York, 23-year-old who's been guiding at Fork for 5 years. Really enjoyed that one. If you guys haven't had a chance to listen, we kind of did, I think I did 9 BTLs last week with the breaking news, and we had a Milliken show and a bunch of stuff. So on Friday, I did drop a Jack York guide day. And a lot of information about the history of Lake Fork, the dynamics of guiding out there, like how you get into it, what to expect. It's a really cool show. If you guys haven't had a chance to listen to it or watch it, I recommend going back and listening to that one.
All the guide days are great. The guides have such a different perspective on fishing than we do, so it's interesting to hear that. I need to give a shout out. Who's the guide you had on from Okeechobee that catches the ribbon fish and the
Justin Jones?
Justin Jones.
Yeah.
Twice now I've run into him on Okeechobee. I ran into him right before I left. I got to go fishing with a good buddy on Okeechobee, and he pulled up on me and once again handed me some custom hand-poured plastics. He did it the last time I saw him down there, and he went out of his way with clients to come next to my boat, say hi, Charlie. My friend that was with me was so impressed, like, "Oh, you can't go anywhere, huh?" And this guy hands me baits. I mean, and they were really beautiful baits. I want to thank him for that. And he won't ever let me pay him for them. He's like, "You'll just give me a shout out if you catch anything on them, So I wanted to give him a shout out. What a great dude. He said he'll be at Hartwell's, the next one he'll be at.
Yeah, he's dialed in. He's fishing all 3 of those, I guess.
He's a really good kid, man.
Division ones that are Sundays.
Good dude. And all your guide days are exciting. They really are. That's a great show part that you do.
It's kind of tricky because there's some guides, like, I like the guides that are like the Charlie Hartleys of guides, the guides who still get up and they're excited to take people out. But I think, just like there is in any segment of life, you have some guys that are just, they're done. They're over it. They're taking the guys now. But I love talking to the guys who, aren't afraid to jump in the boat with strangers and create create an experience that both of them will remember. And that's hard to do when you do it every day with different people.
My good friend Art Ferguson, I take him saltwater fishing usually once a winter, and he goes, "I don't go fishing anymore except when I have to." And that's just, to hear someone say that, that sucks, man. I go fishing every day because I want to. I've never had to. But when I get him out there saltwater fishing and we're not guiding, the passion returns. I mean, he's taking video. It's so cool. I'll never forget first time we went out, I hooked a big saltwater fish and it's strip and drag, and he's videotaping me, and I said, "Man, who gets to do this?" And he goes, you do right now, man." He was into it.
Speaking of, are you still chat with Bondi?
Oh, all the time. Yeah. And I don't know if you've ever watched his podcast.
Wait, Bondi has a podcast?
Oh, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
Wait a second.
It's called the Humble Anglers, the Grateful Anglers. I think it's called the Grateful Anglers, and it's him and a walleye guide sitting in his tackle shop, and it's as dry and as you got to see it. Don't worry, you're not in any threat of being moved down in the.
Oh no, I'm all good on it.
Oh, I'm teasing. He is awesome. He is awesome. I want to go do that show with him because you sit in his tackle store. He's got a cool as hell tackle store. If you ever dreamed of owning a tackle store.
That one right there, the Grateful Anglers.
Yep. They're hilarious. And there's his co-host guy. Anyway, you'd have to see him.
I got to get him on BTL too.
Yeah, you got to see him to believe him. He's killing it, dude. He is killing it with his baits. I mean, killing it.
Quick story, just give people a rundown of John Bondi's career arc in the fishing world, because it is unique.
It's awesome. I met him through the Opens. He qualified for the Elites, I think maybe the same year I did, or it was either, the first year of the Elites. He qualified through the Opens the first year of the Elites. And he was in no position. I wasn't in any position really to go to the Elites, but we couldn't pass up the opportunity. And we went on a scouting trip before the first elite year, and we hit 4 of the venues before they went off limits. We went to Grand, we went to Sam Rayburn, we went to Amistad, and I think we went to, it doesn't matter. But I'd never known John other than casually, and we traveled together for like 4 weeks with 2 boats and pre-scouting for the Elites. And we got along, we got along so good, it was incredible. He's no nonsense. He's no drama. He's all about the fishing. At the time, we were both single, not married yet. It was just 2 fishermen. Anyway, he had to financially find a way to make the first deposit on the Elites, and it was coming up to the date, and we were actually at Amistad, and we're down to the last day to make a payment to go to fish the first Elites, and he stayed in all day, worked on sponsors, and scrambled up enough money to get the deposit so we could go to the first couple Elites. And I can't remember if it was his first year or his second year. He just couldn't. He needed a check after 4 or 5 tournaments and missed it. Like, had the fish in his hands 3 times. And the tournament before that, he had the fish in his hands to get a $10,000 check. But he finally had to just financially tapped out. Well, he had a backup plan. He's a fisheries biologist, a schooled like college biologist, and he'd always guided, and he designed this muskie bait called a Bondi bait. Well, it took the muskie world by storm, like the chatterbait did. It was the greatest new bait ever invented. I mean, it's a new category of bait. He invented a whole category of bait that won many national tournaments, and he couldn't make those quick enough. And then he got into pouring. I mean, he's high production plastics. He's got the big high production machines and now he's making all kinds of bass baits. But his real famous thing also are worms, walleye worms. They throw fake plastic worms for walleyes on harnesses up there and tip them with minnows. And he's got some clamshell packaging now, and they're beautiful. And between muskie fishermen and walleye fishermen, he's like Zoom. I'm not kidding you. He makes baits by the tens of thousands. And he always joked, my dad said fishing would never buy me a house. He goes, look at this house fishing bought me. He's got a beautiful wife and a beautiful daughter. He guides for muskie, he guides for smallmouth, he makes baits, and now he's got a tackle store, and he's living the dream, dude. I mean, his tackle store has minnows and night crawlers and fancy rods and bass baits and muskie baits, and it's right in downtown Windsor, almost on the Detroit River. Super impressive man.
That's the
very
bait right
intelligent.
there, right? That's the bait that he's like famous for.
That's the one and the other one, the Orba, the Royal Orba, or the there's you can't believe that thing. You can't believe what that thing looks like in the water, dude. He's taking me muskie fishing, and that thing is beautiful.
Really?
And these baits, you're not seeing the scale of these baits. These baits are as big as the lid of your cooler.
That's
the first time I went muskie fishing with him, I said, "Can I bring a rod or anything?" And he laughed at me. He goes, "You don't have a rod big enough." And I thought, "Yeah, I do. I got flipping sticks." I got in his boat and I was like, "You're right. I don't have a rod big enough." These baits are as big as your head. And he throws them on a solid steel leader, And to tie the bait on, you actually twist it with pliers. You don't tie a knot, you just twist the bait on.
There you go. There's a picture. There's a throwback. That is from the Elite Series, I want to say 2008. So there's Bondi telling a story. There is a young, talk about full circle, a young Bradley Hallman in the OU hat, and then another Okie, Edwin Evers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to get
you need to get him on. We stay in touch all the time. He is super cool dude. And he just ran like a marathon with his wife on top of that. I mean, he's fit too. Unbelievable.
That's fantastic.
Yep. Yeah, you got to listen to one of his podcasts because they're adorable. I mean, they're adorable.
I will. I'll get
are.
on. He hasn't done one in like a month. I need to get back on. I definitely need to get him on.
And thank you for loading up all those replays. We missed you when you were gone on your media trip. I'm a podcast junkie.
But here's the deal. Sometimes stuff happens and goes down, and the beauty of having all the controls to a podcast is if there's a podcast or perhaps a sections of podcasts that you don't want out to the general public, well, by God, you don't have to put them out to the general public. And I just was traveling and couldn't edit certain sections of podcasts that I would like to. It's a first for me in the 3 years of taking it over, but yep, we went 9 days without one, and we did them live. There were just about 75 to 100 people who saw the full thing, and the rest just get the nice edited version. I'll leave it at that.
Yep. And Moynay's, you made up for it because his went on like 3 hours. And
yeah, I got a little bit bitter on that where they were saying, oh, poo, lost. I said, screw you. Here's Milliken. Here's Jordan Lee 12 hours after he wins. And here's a 3-hour one with Jim Moyna.
Well, I wasn't trying to give you grief. I
know, but I did. I don't get on those damn message boards, Charlie. And I hadn't been on them in 3 months, like 3 or 4 months. Right.
Don't go to the message boards.
Oh, dude, I got on them and yeah.
No, I never look at my emails before blast off. Never, because you'll never focus on the tournament at all.
Just people who speak with absolute certainty about things they know nothing about.
Yeah. I do. One of the things Moyne reminded me back in the day, I fished both FLW and the tour at the same time, and it was incredible. He said he had 2 kids in diapers. It was incredible, even being single and trying to run my business and fish in both tours. It was it was awesome. I don't regret doing it. I'd do it again if I was 20 again, but those were the days, man. You got to admit, it seems like we have some pretty long breaks this season between our EQs. We've had good downtime. It makes you anxious to go back to a tournament instead of, another one already.
Holy cow, Charlie, you fished 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you only fished one a couple years. Yeah, you fished like almost a decade on the FLW tour.
Yeah.
From 99 to 2007.
Yeah. My first top 10 in an FLW was at Okeechobee, the one David Fritz won on a crankbait, beat Kevin Van Dam. And I made the top 10 with like George Cochran and Paul Elias and of course Van Dam and Fritz. And I'll never forget that because his name's escaping me, but he used to go and take photos of us. The guy that does the live stuff on the water now on Major
Rob
League
Newell.
Fish. Yep, Rob Newell would take still photos of us. This is between, and he'd show up at the next tournament with proofs, and you could order prints. Like here's.
I remember that. Yeah, you sell them for $20.
I was in line with David Fritz, and he had a picture of Fritz getting the trophy. And Van Dam's arms coming down like he was down. And Fritz said, I want 100 copies of that one. He goes, I'll never see that again. I want 100 copies of that one.
Oh, yeah. That was back in the day before everything was, instant. You got the photos an hour later. You had that. Now it was like that with baits, too, like when I started. I'm sure you remembered. I mean, I remember going up north for the first time and actually laying eyes on a poor boy's goby bait, and I had heard about them, and all the anglers were going around trying to find, and none of them really knew what the hell they were looking for, but they were trying to find the tackle stores that had the poor boys, and that's what everyone was drop shotting, that poor boys goby bait. That was the only bait that a smallmouth would eat, and on the entire lake apparently at the time. But you couldn't order them; they weren't online. I mean, you had to go get them at the tackle store.
Everything used to be word of mouth. I mean, tournament schedules used to be printed. You get them in the mail. You couldn't look up on your phone where the next tournament was, and tournament results were not instant. We had to wait around after everyone got done weighing to see if you made the cut or if you got paid. You couldn't just look up on a digital screen and see what place you were in. We wrote them. They used to write them with a chalkboard, the different weights, and they'd have to go around and figure out if you made the cut or not. Jim and I qualified for the elites 1 year apart, and the year he qualified, we were standing outside to find out who got moved up to the tour. I guess it was the tour then, and they came out and read your names. And, I knew I was close. He knew he was close. And you stand there and they read your names, and a couple people smiled and a couple people went, oh.
I remember that.
And Gerald would be like, don't worry, Hartley, you'll make it up next year. I know you will. And I did. I followed him up the next year.
I remember that. What was the first bait that you did that you drop shotted in Ohio? Do you remember that?
Yeah, hang on. I can tell you what was.
Well, you think about that. Yeah. The days 1 through 3 with Bradley Hallman is not happening. Getting Hallman on, I'll try again in like 6 months. The guy's living life, hanging out with his kids, going to concerts, deer hunting, traveling, doing his thing, and more power to him. Happy for him. Talked to him last week. All good.
I'll tell you, probably the first thing I drop shotted, and I was a tube guy, so it was hard to get that tube out of my hand. When I won the points in the Northern Everstarts, I caught every fish on a green pumpkin tube. But one of those tournaments, my co-angler tried to kick my butt, drop shotting. Matter of fact, David Wolak was his buddy, and he told him to. He goes, when your pro's dragging a tube, he goes, you put a drop shot on with a real heavy weight and you'll get to the fish ahead of him. Well, daggone it, that dude did. He put on a 3/4 ounce drop shot, and before my tube would get to him, his drop shot would get to him, and the bait was the Gulp leech, the 3-inch black leech. That thing was like crack cocaine to him when we first got Gulp. Those smallmouth, it felt like you couldn't even catch a fish on regular plastic after you'd had that Gulp on. But I'll tell you, and you talk about the poor boy area, poor boy goby. They used to, before the goby. Yeah, there's Jim. I know Jim real well. Before the goby, he won. By the way, he won a Toyota up there with that.
Look at, I'm on top of things. Here he is, right there.
Yeah. We had the Erie Darter before the goby. Matter of fact, Jim will tell you a story about the last day they cut it to the top 10, and Tracy and I went out pleasure fishing, and we go clear out to this reef in the middle of Lake Erie where no man should be, and there's one boat out there. And he gets near me, and he goes, Charlie, and I go, Jim? He goes, I'm leading the tournament. I said, we're leaving. I was just out play fishing. So I ran into him on the final day, and of course yielded as soon as I figured out I was anywhere in his interference. And he won that tournament. I'm not saying he won it because I ran out of there, but it was so neat to run into him. Yep, there it is. It doesn't look like much. Kind of looks like a snake head.
Yep, it does. Interesting. An Erie Darter?
Yeah, that was previous to that. Yeah, pull the darter up. It almost looks like the old zipper worm that they used to fish out in the West.
Is that a poor boys too?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm confident it is. Yeah, Erie Darter. It was way before the goby, and it's still real popular. We fish it both drop shotting and like with a jig head in it.
Oh,
remember this? Right here. Remember the zipper worm? It looks a lot like it.
Ew. Yeah, it's not like you don't look at it and go, "Oh yeah, that's the ticket."
No, you don't. Yeah, but man, it catches them. Look at that thing.
I mean, I guess it does. It has a little goby profile to it. I mean, the things are you're down there at the current dragging it along, but it looks just like a little goby.
Yeah.
So back when you could practice, the media could practice with the elite guys, and we were up on Buffalo. I practiced with Kurt Dove for a day, and I had to sit in the boat when he practiced in Canada. I couldn't practice in Canada, but I could practice. And he had me, and this was the first time I had ever drop shotted. He would take whatever tube he was dragging and just cut it in half, like linked, and then just hook it on the hook. And it was just a strip of plastic with 4 little tails. Caught the crap out of him all day practicing with him. He had me while he was dragging and hopping a tube and throwing a jerk bait. He had me just dragging a half of a tube. It was literally just a strip of plastic.
We would drop shot tubes. We would nose hook tubes. And the main reason we went to drop shots on the Great Lakes was the zebra mussels. We had no choice. Anything you put on the bottom got cut off immediately. And a drop shot didn't put your hook down in those zebra mussels. You know, it kept your bait up above the zebra mussels. So the tube and bottom dragging baits at Lake Erie or the Great Lakes became obsolete because you can't fish them without getting broke off from the zebra mussels. So the drop shot was more a necessity of getting your hook and weight, you know, your bait off the bottom and breaking off every cast. We'd go through 100 tubes a day once the zebra mussels showed up. You know, you'd throw out sometimes and you wouldn't even get to put any tension on the line. Your tube would cut off from the zebra mussels.
I couldn't do it. The year it was in Grand, you would try to throw a wobblehead down lake in 14-15. Grand got super clear. Zebra mussels got in. There hadn't been a flood. And I mean, like if you brought a stick in, it was just covered. And there's still some in it. But dude, you'd tie it on 20-pound test. You'd make a cast, do. Everything would be fine. And then you would send an 11/16-ounce wobblehead at about 90 miles an hour straight towards the freaking like picture window of a $7 million house in Duck Creek. And literally, I mean, cover your ears. I can't tell you how many times I went, oh shit, when I cast, because it was like slicing it off of slicing a tee at the golf course.
Like 4.
The house, except you're just, because it would just nick it. I mean, dude, you'd get just enough tension and it would send that thing up into the freaking Duck Creek subdivisions. I mean, out of sight, like you're 3 streets back and there's an 11/16 freaking biffle bug just flying towards someone's window at 6:45 in the morning.
I've got a couple of stories about lures flying in crazy places.
Let's hear it.
That's funny. Our local reservoirs have filled up with zebra mussels, a couple of them, because the cigarette boats go to Lake Erie and then they come down to this big reservoir, and we moved them around real quick. And they are so thick in our local reservoir. Same thing. The bottom of the logs are absolutely covered with them. You break off, you know, flipping. And they also get my square bills on the riprap. You'll make about 3 casts and then you'll go to make another cast with that square bill and it goes, and you're like, oh, I'm glad I didn't hook anything on that one.
I know. It's frustrating.
And you brought up Kurt Dove, man. He's killing it out west. I think he found.
I just had him on the show. Yeah, no, he's smoking it, having a good time.
Yeah, it was funny. He said, I haven't been on in a while, Matt. And he goes, well, you're catching them. And I thought, well, I'm not going to be on for a while either.
Man, Jim, I just pulled up Jim's stats. Yep. He had a hell of a 2004 in the span of a month. Yeah. He won 2 BFLs and a Toyota series.
Yep.
He was dialed.
Yep, he's a regular fan every time I see him on.
Yeah, he's always on. But that was back when, 19, 14, 17, 18, 16. That was back before the 5 and 6s. You had to have mid-20s to have a shot. Right. Like that was, you're grinding out 3-pounders.
He and Tracy used to hang out at the tiki bar after I'd go to sleep.
Okay. What else we got, Charlie? I know you're working. You're at Sign.
Oh, I'm good. I canceled the production meeting for you. We're going to have it tomorrow at 9:30. So I'm okay here at SignCom. What else have I got? I made some notes here. Let's see if any of them make sense.
We kind of replaced like the worm jig talk with the drop shot talk. It just seemed more natural. Plus, I was seeing if there's any old school baits that I needed to get a leg up on you when we go to St. Clair here in about a month.
I wouldn't tell you the real deal anyway. But
Dude, you mentioned that burning the spinner bait though. That used to be I remember covering all the tournaments, and there were guys who all they would do from Buffalo all the way to St. Clair. I remember it used to be a big thing on Thousand Islands was 20-pound test, broomstick, burn a freaking heavy chartreuse double willow leaf as fast as you can, and it gets absolutely trucked.
Yep, that's how Clun won the first time we were at Thousand Islands, before the gobies with like 14 or 15 pounds a day of smallmouth. He caught them burning a spinner bait, and I'll never forget, he said, if you slowed it down at all, the pike or muskie got it. So you had to reel it so fast so they wouldn't get it. But that's been a tactic for a long time. It just gets lost with all this finesse fishing. And, our environment has changed at the Great Lakes between the zebra mussels and the warming trend and the gobies. You still catch them on a spinner bait, but it's not a tournament winning deal. We even used to do it at Oneida, Cayuga, any smallmouth lake. They would, big 3/4 ounce spinner bait as fast as you could reel it. Kevin even has one in his Strike King line that's called a burner or something. It's got small blades and a huge head, so you can really rip it. It looks like a rocket. You were asking if someone was going to go up north for a smallmouth vacation for a week and they could go anywhere. I just thought of that looking at my notes. And God, they're all beautiful. There's a million of them, but so many of them, your week could be ruined because of wind. So probably my favorite suggestion would be the Thousand Islands area, Clayton, because you can go out on the lake if the wind doesn't blow, but if it blows, you've got still incredible world-class smallmouth fishing and largemouth fishing in the river. And you can go out on the river any day. I don't care how hard it's blowing. So that would be my suggestion, not only for the fishing, it's probably one of the most beautiful places you'll ever go. The Thousand Islands area, when you see the rock structures and the water and the current and the old castles it's one of the prettiest places as a tourist. Alexandria Bay, hell, you can stay in a castle right on the water. It's a beautiful place. I mean, I grew up as a kid. I spent my summers in northern Michigan, which is beautiful. Little cabin lake and gorgeous birch trees. But when I went to Thousand Islands the first time, I was like, wow, this is my little Grand Lake times 1,000. It is one of the prettiest places you'll ever go. And I've been all over North America. I mean, two of the prettiest places are probably Clear Lake and Thousand Islands. I mean, just breathtaking scenery and fishing.
Where was the one? I'm trying to find it. Is it Singer Castle that you can rent?
Yeah.
So you can literally rent this castle. It's like right across from where the launch is, because we were considering doing this. It's like $2,500 a night, but it has like boat slips for there. You can stay there. It ended up being like $100 a person. I think it's.
I don't think you had good cable. If I remember right, you didn't have cable.
No, it wasn't Singer Castle.
No, not Hart Castle. Might be Hart Castle.
Singer Castle's the big castle as you're going down into Alexandria Bay. That's like the tourist castle where you're like,
It might be Hart Castle. What's fascinating about those castles, Matt? It took them like 60 years to build them. Some of them, the guys who were building them died before they got completed, and they never even got to spend time in them. The period they could build was so small with the weather. And of course, back then they didn't have, electric tools or anything. It took a century to build some of those, and they're just so cool. Some of the richest people in the world that could afford castles thought that was the coolest place to build a castle. That's how pretty that place is. I mean, you don't see castles built on other lakes or other parts of the Great Lakes. It is just a beautiful, beautiful part of the world.
Yeah, I mean, like you can stay. Anyway,
you don't have to stay in a castle. They have.
I know, but it would be fun. Like, could you imagine busting 28 pounds of smallies, having 3, 4, 6 pound smallies and then rolling back and cooking a ribeye at your castle and knowing that you're doing it the next day and the next day.
Next time I'll pay my portion. Let's go.
I know. I was trying to get a bunch of guys in, and everybody I talked to was like, we're in, because all you'd have to do is you spend a little bit more. You'd have to gas up. You'd have to find a place to make sure you
worth the hassle.
Truck and stuff. But, you know, it has electric. It's got docks. If the weather's good, you plug your stuff in. You wake up in your castle and you're cast in 5 minutes later.
All right, awesome. Just cool.
I definitely need to stay in the castle before.
Yeah.
You froze on me, Charlie. I don't know why Charlie froze an hour in. Okay, you're back.
Yeah. What are we going to run into at Eufaula?
Who knows? If we get more rain. If we get more rain, it might be fun.
Yeah, but it's post-spawn. I don't care how much water's in those bushes.
It might be fun, Charlie. You might be able to do the old scissor flip with a freaking piece
Sounds
of plastic.
good to me, buddy. A lot better than last time we were there. That was
or a jig. You might be able to put it in a little bush or a willow.
I'd be liking that. I don't just stare at that screen. I like that. My neck gets sore.
All right. Like I said, I gotta go pick up the boat from the bass tank. Go put some
and that's
power
an
brakes
exciting
on.
day. That's a happy day, dude. Never take that for granted. You're picking up a badass boat, man.
Yep, I am. And like I said, I dropped. So I took the other one to Bass Cat. I left 31 rods and reels in the rod box. And I've kind of chronicled this. I don't think I've ever actually told the whole story on BTO, but you know, I got the thing really nice, cleaned out everything, and then I got it unrigged at the bat. Anyway, long story short, there were a couple things that happened to where I just didn't have a chance to do like a quick once over of it. And I go to get ready for the Thursday nighter with Cranford, and I'm like, dude, I don't, my stuff's not here. Like it's not here. So I literally am like, well, maybe I left it on the side of the house. Maybe it's in the truck. It was not there. And then I called Bass Cat and they're like, yeah, no, there's an entire rod box. It's just like, you can't fit another rod in it. It's that crowded. So I had to drive 6 hours, pick up all my rods. And like the entire staff is greeting me with like cackling. Wait, like they saw me pull up and like all of Bass Cat came out to be like, hey, there he is. That's the guy. That's the guy.
You're special. You're special, Matt. Just like with the cicadas. You're special. Everyone loves you. They love you.
Man.
We love you, Matt. I love hearing you're human. I mean,
we've done so like at Louisville, Wade Middleton's national championship. I want to say 2007, 2006. Chip and I go up the river on Louisville and we're flipping. We're shaking them off like left and right. And it's supposed to be like nasty the next day. So we got all our flipping stuff ready. And I said, well, let's bring our spinner baits and buzz baits in so we can work on that because they're so we take every spinner bait and buzz bait out of the boat.
Oh, I know what you did.
Into the room, get everything ready, get the blades changed, leave them in the room, go out the next day. They will not touch a freaking moving bait. The 3 fish that we do catch is as we reel our beavers back in, they crush them. The only thing we have in the boat are flipping baits and 10-inch worms. I swear we would have blown that tournament away had we had any moving baits in there, and they were all sitting back in the hotel room. Completely forgot them. I've done it with jerk baits too in the spring. I've gone in, worked on all the jerk baits, gone out, started my tournament day, and the only jerk bait I have is the one tied onto my rod.
I remember Aaron Martins forgot his square bills when KVD was whacking them at New Orleans. He was like, I moved every box over, but I forgot my square bill box. I can remember Aaron having a meltdown.
Oh, yeah, he would have gone nuts on that.
I'll tell you a good one like that, forgetting something. You know how I have OCD and I have to have everything clean and spotless. Yep. And I roomed with Ken Cook for a while and Tracy or Tammy Cook, beautiful people. And Ken was always giving me crap, get your damn tackle ready, not your truck and boat washed, pay attention to what's important. Well, I'll never forget one morning we're at the Delta and it's ready for blast off. And I got this one ribbon tail worm. They're biting, man. And I got like 4 packs of them. And it's 10 minutes for they're going to call my number, and I start rooting through my compartments, and I can't find that damn ribbon tail worm. And Ken Cook looks at me and he goes, should have been working on your tackle, not washing your boat and truck. And I went, oh shit, he's right.
Did you ever find him?
I found one pack. It got me through the day, but it was a panic because it was one of those baits where if I didn't have that worm, I wasn't going to get bit.
Yeah. Let's close this thing out. So like I said, I've been doing a little cleaning and I found some stuff in old boxes, good boxes, not junk boxes, but this is some stuff that came to mind. So do you remember True Tungsten, that big pro staff that they used to have?
I've
Look
got
at
that
this.
same one in the package. I've still got it in the package. Same one. I got it at Amistad.
That's when I got this. I got it at a media event at Amistad. There's the bluegill / tilapia, the True Life swim bait.
You could change the weights in it. You could change the weights in it.
I think I already have the brass balls in there, but they came in like the bottom like that.
Mine's
but that
still
was like
sealed.
2009. I've opened this one and played with it. I was like 20 something when I got this.
It's worth anything.
I don't know. It'd be interesting, but fish harder. You pull it apart. You can turn it from a wake bait, a slow sink, or a fast sink. And then back when I remember
that was like
this
the original tungstens. That True
Yep.
Tungsten was the original tungsten. Yep.
This was a big deal. Remember in the newspaper, they had the parade insert every week. And it was like the smaller magazine that went out in the USA Today and stuff for millions and millions of people.
Yep.
Remember in 2010 when Skeet Reese was on the cover of
Oh
Parade?
no.
That is mainstream as it gets. That was an insert in every paper across the country. I remember when that went out, it was like the biggest or most exposure that a professional bass fisherman had ever gotten since Denny Brower was on and Ike were on like the late night shows.
And we're still to this date not mainstream.
Yeah.
20 years later, we're still far from
March
mainstream.
14, 2010, the lure of a champion. For pro angler Skeet Reese, competitive bass fishing requires skill, endurance, and mental toughness.
On Mother's Day, I won a tournament years ago on Mother's Day. I've got the plaque in my trophy room, and on Mother's Day, I always get sentimental, and I go look at that plaque. I took a picture of it and sent it to two of my buddies, Jeremy and Michael. And I said, man, I won this tournament on Mother's Day. I always remember Mother's Day. Well, I didn't realize when I took the picture, it had the date on the plaque, of course. And my buddy Jeremy texts and says, that's nice, but that was 9 years before I was born. And then Michael texts back, I was 4.
That's funny.
Talk about feeling old. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I called Skeet. Skeet is a busy man, so like if you catch him when he's with his phone, he'll answer. And other than that, you ain't getting him.
Yeah.
I'll try to get Skeet on to talk. And then one of your buddies, Marizo.
Yeah.
Remember Marizo? Dude, Marizo had a passion for this thing just like you did, except he probably smoked a few more cigarettes along the way.
He's an awesome dude, man. I had a great personal relationship with him. Yep. Go ahead.
And that's why I want to show this. So this is like a box set for Basser or for Lure magazine. And if you remember, like we read them like this, like they do it the opposite way. But like here's the magazine inside. It's like all pristine. But then this like came like with a box set like this, Charlie. And then when you opened it up, there's a Big Mama tackle box and a Big Mama DVD in the top.
Big
like
Mama.
that.
Big Mama.
Yep. There you go. There's your Basser copy. And on the back, I love this. So the Japanese guys, like, they name their lures, and on the lure, it says on the bottom, it says, "Did you catch Big Mama?" But this is completely unopened, brand new.
Yeah. When he won Kentucky Lake, he was fishing a football jig with this really goofy trailer on it, man. It had like hair on the rubber trailer.
I've got it. It's got it's a horsehair.
Dude, he gave me a pack like the next tournament. He go, here's what I won.
Here it is, right here.
Yep, that's it. Yeah. Yep, that's it. I got a bag of those.
See the brush hog style looking thing? Here, let me see if I can make it bigger. That has the horsehair sticking out the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's from 2013.
Yeah, now read and see what the name of it is.
There's no English on what the name of it is. Usually they have the English name underneath it, but they don't. He was a Japanese angler who got grouped into the finesse fishing deal, but he was a power fisherman.
Yeah. Crankbait, big football jig, big worm. I got to be the designated driver one night when we all went to one of the power pole crawl bakes for us, at one of the tournaments. And he was so much fun to have. He kept looking at me. You okay? You okay to drive? You okay to drive? I'm like, yeah, I'm not anything. I'm being good, Mauricio. You okay? You okay?
Yeah, he was. I miss him on the Elite Series. He was
Tracy
way
and his wife,
bigger.
Yeah, Tracy and his wife got along real well because she couldn't speak any English, and Tracy would, take her places and help her order food and help her get deliveries, and they became real close. I'm trying to think of his wife's name.
But
we used to call her like
in Japan. Then people have no idea how big he was in Japan with the Birding Heart series.
He's much more famous than a fisherman. He's got like a actual variety show, like a variety TV show that just happens to have some fishing in it. Yeah,
the BYS bait breath shrimp. That's what it's called. The bait breath was the name of that bait, and it was called the BYS. One of them was the BYS shrimp, but it was a bait breath plastic. In case you were looking for that.
We used to call his wife Chimmy. That's not her name.
Yep.
That's Chimmy. And man, they were genuine people. They were absolutely, you could tell Mauricio was what you saw is what you got. That's exactly who he is, man. There was no act there. But what a life to have to fly back and forth for every tournament, man. Remember, he was sponsored by United Airlines for a while.
Yep.
I was hoping he got some of his flights free. I mean, you can't imagine the expense of that going back and forth.
It comes in a special Big Mama box.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I knew you'd appreciate
those are the good old days, man.
I know
those are the good old days.
So, all right, I gotta get.
Let's get out of this crappy slump in the E50s. Let's finish strong, man. Let's get us.
I wish it was
checks.
the E50s, the EQs.
Sorry, the EQs. But we need to get a win and get in a classic and get some of our money back. This is disappointing. Let's go.
I agree, but the beautiful thing about tournament fishing, Charlie, and you know this as well as
3 days away from everything being fine. I heard it.
Keep showing up, and no one will comment on the previous 50 as long as you hit that one out of the park.
You don't lose till you quit, man. Don't quit.
I love it. All right, Charlie, I'm going to let you get back to work inside. Don't forget, if you got any big, important executive meetings, you got to take that Mercury Pro Team shirt off and get back to the press. You probably walk in there and they'd be like, you know what? I like that guy, but that was an interesting apparel choice today.
I'll wear this button down with my next tournament.
Give Guy Eaker a run for his money.
Oh, he was my role model, dude. That's my role model. Awesome.
He's still after it. All right, get back to work, Charlie. Thank you, man.
See you, Matt. Always love Bass Talk Live. Keep doing it, dude. This is what you do best. Keep it up.
Thanks, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
The one and only Charlie Hartley. All right, we're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, try to find my other lung, and we'll talk about what we have going on for the rest of the week. Really excited about some of the shows that we have coming up the rest of this week. A little bit off the grid, but something that I think we'll continue a little bit with the nostalgia theme and mix in a little bit of new school with it. So BTL on a Tuesday. We'll be back right after this.
Omnia Pro gives you the confidence to eliminate dead water on thousands of lakes across the U.S. Exclusively through Omnia, utilize our map layers containing critical real-time satellite information to see water temperature, water clarity, and important weather data all in one place, along with 1-foot contours from Navionics and detailed CMAP social mapping. Matched with Omnia's industry-leading loyalty credit program on all your tackle and gear needs, this is the only app you need in your arsenal for success on the water.
Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronics setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com.
In 2023, we became a household name in the crappie fishing world thanks to Power Breaks, the game changer. Hey, bass fishing world, buckle up, because you're next. It's going to be fun. Welcome to the next evolution of our product line, Power Breaks Sidekick, designed to install right on your shallow water anchors. We are the first and only fishing brake company to offer a breakaway system. Just like with the Game Changer, the Power Break Sidekick has it as well. And it's not a matter of if you're going to need it, it's when. Power Brakes, the most durable fishing brakes available on the market today. Made right here in the USA with our rock-solid 2-year warranty. Hey, not all fishing brakes are built equally, and you owe it to yourself to find out why ours are different. Power Break Sidekick. Order yours today at mypowerbrakes.com. You'll be glad you did.
Your early morning mentality is your every hour mentality. All gas, no brakes. Focus, purpose, power. Destined for the water, but confident everywhere else. A calming buzz before the storm, the truth of nature itself. You can't catch lightning in a bottle. There's a limit out there, but it's not with your gear. Unrelenting power delivery. Unparalleled weight savings. Keeping you on the water, whether you run a 9.9 or outscoping your best 5. In this rare air, there's power in the silence. It's a mindset, thinking only of the things that matter and freeing your mind from the things that you trust.
Get the best patterns backed by tournament data. Start by finding the best 10% of your lake. Know exactly what to look for and what to throw. After that, just put them in the boat. Try the Deep Dive app today.
Look at that beast right there.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Time on Strike King.
Welcome back, BTL, on a Tuesday. Love having Charlie on every time we seem to talk about something new, but really dig his attitude towards the sport. All right, tomorrow, I've talked about it. I think we tried having it last year, and I was having some internet problems. Big in fisherman guy growing up. If you notice, I've been wearing an in fisherman hat. Know a couple of guys that are doing some things over at in fisherman right now. One of those being Thomas Allen, used to work at Bass. I think he went over to in fisherman in 2020. Runs the digital side of things over there. We're gonna get Thomas Allen on to talk about in fisherman. There's a lot of different angles we can take about here. Obviously, multi-species magazine, but also a lot of bass fishermen, a lot of non-tournament bass fishermen that watch in fishermen. I'd love to get kind of his impact. You know, we kind of live in a little bubble here in the tournament bass fishing world. Stuff that we talk about is we're in like a little bubble, and he's outside of that bubble. He hears from what the casual angler thinks when they look into the world of tournament fishing. I'd love to get his take on tackle trends, where he thinks it's going, what the casual non-tournament angler is interested in, is watching, their thoughts on technology, on the top level of tournament bass fishing, etc. And then on Thursday, Frank is back and is introducing or telling on what his newest signature color is, the ones that are labeled 1 through 600. I'm I'm going to hold off on it today. I was debating on whether or not to do it. From what I'm hearing, I want to say this. From what I'm hearing, the technology committee for BASS is going to make a decision sooner rather than later as far as the limitations or lack of limitations or what's going to be allowed on vessels technology-wise, number of inches-wise, height and transducer-wise, and battery-wise in the coming months, not waiting to the end of the season. That would then take effect in 2025. So anglers know now what they can experience and how they have to rig their boats for the 2025 season. I would assume that would be congruent for both the Elite Series and the Bassmaster Open EQs as they try to make those more on par, which is what is also happening with the info rules and all that moving forward to try to make it more parallel. There are some things that I am hearing that might be a possibility as far as limitations and restrictions that don't have anything to do with graphs, with screens, which I don't think I've had a legit beef rant on BTL since I took this thing over almost 3 years ago. This one I might fly off on the handle on. This one it gets me fired up every time I talked about it. I've mentioned it on a couple other podcasts that I've done, but if this comes to fruition, it'll be very interesting. That's all I'll say about it now. I'll wait till we got a little quieter show. I don't think anything's going to happen really probably until July on it. And we had such a freaking killer positive show with Charlie Hartley. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to wrap things up today. We are going to head up north to pick up the cat and get it back. And then I was telling Charlie, I said, I got invited to fish a Tuesday night jackpot tonight. And a couple people have pointed out, hey, seem to do pretty well in the team tournament format. So maybe I can go 3 for 3 in my last team tournaments. Maybe that'll trickle over into the old Bassmaster Open EQs like Charlie was talking about. But great fan interaction, great feedback. Hey, here's what we're going to do in the coming weeks. I got some stuff to give away. I got some t-shirts. I got some 30-40% off Sunline cards. Been working on some really unique stuff that we can do to where fan engagement interaction. If you are listening to BTL and you have a good internet signal and the ability to have a camera and audio to where you can log directly in. I can bring you into the show as a fan of BTL. You can chat with Frank. You can chat with the guests. You can do questions. So this is a step up from the Sunline hotline, the call-in shows that we used to do. You jump on BTL just like one of the guests do. You can give your opinions. You can voice your opinions, whatnot. Ask questions to the guest, and then I'll hook you up with some prizes. So that's what we have coming in the next couple of weeks. We're probably going to test it out. Maybe we could test it out in maybe we can test it out Thursday with Uncle Frank. Bring a couple of day 4 listeners in to ask questions, and then Frank can give away a color number 7 spook. But all right, stay tuned. Same place, same time tomorrow. Thomas Allen in Fisherman. That's all we got for today. Thanks, Charlie. You kicked butt today. We'll talk to everybody then. Later.